syllabus of electrodynamics. We are studying magnetostatics basically from the last 2 to 3 lectures, and I hope you find magnetostatics easier than electrostatics. If there is any problem solving the questions of assignments, as I've uploaded 2 assignments on the drive now, so you can ask me if you have solved them. So anyone wanted to ask anything?
No, ma'am. I just complete the assignment, but I don't have any doubt.
Okay. So if you have any doubt, we can clear that, or either I will start the class. So yes, this is a lecture number 8, and what we are going to study today is the most important topic is the first one, dynamics of charged particles in magnetic field. Many questions are coming from this topic, especially in GAT, JEST, and BRC type of exams. In NET exams, sometimes they give, but the questions from this topic is quite easier. That is why. And the cyclotron, magnetic susceptibility, and magnetization, these 3 topics are importantly preferred in NET exams. And at last, we'll do some examples too. So yes, we'll start with motion of a charged particle in a uniform magnetic field. So what do you understand by uniform magnetic field? Uniform means the same, having the same intensity, having the same number of field lines, etc., etc. Like that is not varying, which is not varying is uniform. Varying means is not changing with respect to the time. Like if we say at 5 seconds the magnetic field was 1 Tesla, and at 10 seconds it was 10 Tesla. No. At 1 second if it is 1 Tesla, at 10 seconds if it is 10 Tesla, and at 1 hour after it is again 10 Tesla, then it is a uniform magnetic field because it is not varying. So here is an example on your screen. You can see that an electron travels at 2 into 10 to the power 7 meter per second in a plane perpendicular to a 0.01 Tesla magnetic field. Describe its path. Why I am putting this example in the initial only? 2 things. First one is this. Let me select some pointer. Yeah. So you can see the magnetic field has a constant a numeric value, sorry, not constant, a numeric value 0.01 Tesla. And from here you can estimate that the magnetic field is uniform. First thing. Second thing, the velocity of electron is also given. This one is the velocity of electron which is traveling in the magnetic field. So V is given. And these types of questions we will be able to solve if we have completed once this class. So these types of questions are quite easy and can come in your exams too. So yes, uh, just take a pen and a paper with yourselves, so because during this lecture there will be many of the examples you have to solve and you will tell me the answers. So please take a pen and a paper, and then we will start. So the same example, I'll tell you how to solve. So here is the same example you can see. This is the example. An electron travels 2 into 10 to the power 7 meter per second in a plane perpendicular to a 0.01 Tesla magnetic field. Describe its path. So first of all, I have drawn a picture here. You can see these lines, these black lines, these are the direction of magnetic field. These black shapes are the direction of magnetic fields. Okay. These are the charges. These are the charges. Okay. Suppose one charge is rotating. It is in a circular motion. And the another one charge is not in a circular motion. It is moving arbitrarily. Okay. Now, if we apply a velocity of the which the question is saying 2 into 10 to the power 7 meter per second. if I am applying a velocity 2 into 10 to the power 7 meter per second on this charge, and we are supposing that this charge is situated perpendicular to this magnetic field, you will be unable to see the perpendicular thing, because on a plane it is not easy to show. So we can suppose that this is perpendicular, or we can say the magnetic field is perpendicular to this velocity of this charge. Now what will happen? Describe its path. We have to describe the path. So which path will it follow? So basically this uh, scenario and the paragraph is a description of uniform circular motion. So as as soon as we apply the velocity, then the charge starts moving like this. Huh? You can see again, the charge was here, and if I am applying the velocity, it starts moving like this. Yeah. So the electron will move in a circular path with a constant speed. And what will be the acceleration? The usual acceleration, like r, if r is the radius of that conventional circle, then the acceleration will be v square over r. Hence, you can now solve the question. What will be the answer? You can tell me now. So what will be the answer of this question? Please tell me fast. It is quite easy, na? You all know this. What will be the path? The path will be circular. Okay, come on, guys, do reply. Yeah, moving ahead. Now, in the last section, we have discussed about electrons. What about protons? What will be the motion of a proton in a uniform magnetic field? Now, I have changed the picture. I have put some protons here, some positive charges here. Okay, instead of electrons. So what will happen? The force will be always there. Okay, but if the protons are moving with velocity v, na, then the force will be inward direction to the center. That conventional circle, again one conventional circle they will make like electrons. Okay, if the magnetic field direction is the same, then we'll get the same type of circular path. Okay, so what will be that force which is restricting the motion of protons to move in a circular path? So the type of force is F equals to mode of q vb, amplitude of q vb. This is the force, and you can see in this diagram the force is inward to the conventional center of this circle. So always all the forces we are applying on the proton now, that are to the circle, inward to the circle. That means all those are centripetal forces. So for the centripetal forces from Newtonian mechanics, you can use this formula mv square over r. So F will be equal to qvb, that is equal to mv square over r. So from here I can find out the velocity of the proton, that how much velocity they can gain, or the radius, that what will be the radius of that conventional circle where they are moving. Okay, so this is the case of a proton. The time period t will be, we know that t equals to 2 pi r over v, means distance upon velocity. So the distance is the circumference of that circle, so 2 pi r, and it will be equal to 2 pi m over qb. And the rotational frequency we can also calculate, which is also called cyclotron frequency, and we'll study it later on in this lecture only. So what is the cyclotron frequency? I'll tell you. For now, just remember these formulas, like for a charge moving in influence of a uniform magnetic field and having force F, then keeps the velocity v equals to qrv over m, radius r equals to mv over qb, time period t equals to 2 pi m over qb, and rotational frequency f equals to qv over 2 pi m. Yes, moving ahead. Now, for some time, the proton will move in a circular path. But what is the effect of velocity? If we are increasing the velocity, if the velocity is constant, if we are decreasing the velocity, if velocity and magnetic field are perpendicular, if velocity and magnetic field are parallel. So what will be the condition in all these cases? So if V and B are perpendicular, a charged particle travels in a circular path. We know this thing now. Velocity remains constant, but the direction of velocity is changing. Now, look at this image. This is your proton. And if I am dividing the components of the velocity of this proton, like it is V perpendicular, which is in the perpendicular direction of magnetic field, you can see. And second one is the V parallel, which is the parallel direction of this magnetic field. Okay. For the perpendicular direction, this perpendicular direction is sending this charge to move in a circular path. This one circle completes here. Yes. And this parallel component will tend the charge to move down toward this. Yeah. You can see this. So what will happen? What will now the path of this proton? So you can see this. Yeah, and hence the proton will lost its energy at last. Yeah. So if the proton has two components of velocity and we are giving the velocity in perpendicular and parallel direction both, then the proton is tend to move in a helical path, and after some time due to the parallel component of velocity, the proton loses its all energy. Yeah. Now, if we confine electrons to move in a plane, so this is our plane, and these dots, these blue balls are the electrons. Okay, now we are not applying any force, we are not applying any field, any magnetic field, and so they have some velocity. Obviously, we know that the charges like electrons and protons can't be stable. So they always possess some velocity. So due to that velocity, what will be their motion? Their motion will be random like this. We can see. They are moving randomly. No restrictions, no direction. Okay. But if we suddenly apply magnetic field perpendicular to the plane, then the protons will move like this, or the electrons will move like this. Yeah, you can see this. So these crosses are the magnetic field, and cross means into the plane, so that means perpendicular to the plane. And these blue balls moving circularly are your electrons. Okay, so this is the effect of magnetic field for any moving charges. Now, how can we calculate magnetic forces on moving charges, and what types of mathematical calculations we have to do, which formulas we will use, we'll study now. So magnetic fields are caused by electric currents and exert forces on electric currents. Yes, we know this. And electric current consists of moving electric charges. So when some electric currents are producing, and they force to move some electric charges, then some magnetic field is generated, then some force is generated. Then due to that force and magnetic field, the path of the charges may change. We have seen this thing, okay, in previous slides I have told you. But the charges experience those forces where they are moving in a conductor. Okay, so firstly, if they are moving in a conductor, this is the conductor, and if they are moving in a non-conductor, okay, this is not a conductor case. Yeah, if they are moving in a conductor, like electrons are moving in a conductor, like holes are moving in a conductor or semiconductor, we can see. So the direction of force will be like this if the current is this one. Means there is some angle between this and this. Let's say this angle as theta. Now, if there is not a conductor, some random material, then at different charges there will be force, and there that force will be always perpendicular to that magnetic field. This is your magnetic field, and the force is perpendicular means into the plane, okay, or up to the plane. So by some formula you can get it. So for a force for a force on a moving charge, we can write F equals to I, that current, L, that length of that conductor or that wire or so, B, that magnetic field, and sine theta. Theta is that angle. Yeah, which angle? This angle, this theta. So F will be equal to ILV sine theta. And we know that current equals to charge per time. So Q over T. So F, we can just replace this for I, and F will be equal to Q over del T LV sin theta. And again, F is equals to Q into L is here, B sin theta is here. I'm just putting this delta T below this L. And this L over delta T will become the velocity. Distance upon time is always the velocity. So finally, we get an expression for the force on a moving charge, whether it can be at any angle theta. So F equals to QVB sine theta. Okay, and where the angle theta will be situated. So this theta is the angle between V and B, means velocity and magnetic field. Yes. Okay. So we can now find out the amplitude of force. Okay. But how can we find out the direction? So we can find out the direction by using our right hand palm rule. The same rule we have used. I've told you in my last lecture now. So the right hand rule, that was same. So just we will do, we will put our thumb in the direction of negative charge. Matlab means if we are studying about negative charges, then the thumb will be in the reverse direction, and the right hand thumb rule we have already studied. So this F equals to QVB sin theta. If theta is equals to 90, then sin theta equals to 1. That means force equals to QVB. Yes. So there is a charge, negative charge. Magnetic field is like this, and the velocity is perpendicular to this magnetic field. So on this charge, what will be the force? The force will be F equal to this one QVB. Okay, you can see from this image only. Now, magnetic forces remain at 90 degrees to both V and B. To do this, they must change direction continuously. Yeah, to make a circle, the forces must change their directions. So, just look at this image. These crosses are the direction of magnetic field. Cross means into the page or into the plane. Yes. Now, this is your negative charge. We have constrained it to move with some velocity v, and it is moving. Then a force is generating into this direction. Suppose this is the direction. If the charge want to do a circular motion or to follow a circular path, then the direction of forces will change, and at last this will become like a circle. Like here will be a force, then here will be a force, then here will be a force. All forces that having the direction towards the center. Yes. Now we know the formula force, but we have to know the factors which affect the magnitude of force. So which factors will affect? Obviously theta will affect, because force will be maximum when theta is 90 degree, as sine 90 is 1, and force will be minimum, that means 0, when theta is 0 degree, means if theta is 0, sine 0 is 0. So look at this example. Now the use of that pen and paper comes here. An electron is moving with speed v equals to 2 into 10 to the power 6 meter per second, enters a uniform magnetic field of strength B equals to 4.5 Tesla at an angle of theta equals to 40 degree. All the things are given. So this is the diagram you can see here. So we have to find out A, the magnitude of force on electron. B, the direction of force on electron. C, the force on an electron moving left to right in this field. D, the force on an electron moving down to the page as it enters in this field. So one by one, you will tell me the answer. You have 10 seconds and then I'll show you the answers. Come on.
Ma'am, answer D will be, I think, right.
No, these four are not the options.
No, I think option.
These four A, B, C, D are the questions only. You have to find out A, B, and then C, and then D. These are the questions. See here, velocity is given, magnetic field is given, and angle is given. And what is asking in this A? Magnitude of force. So you know the formula. F equals to QVB sin theta. Just put the values. You can get. Second one is asking the direction of force on electron. What is theta, which is given sine 40. So you can use your right hand rule and you can find out the force. So the force will be directed out of the page. Third, he is asking what would be the force on electron moving left to right. So just look at that picture. Moving left to right, that means from here to here in this field. And the D, it will say when down to the page it is entering, like this one. Okay, so what will be those answers? So if it is moving left to the right, then obviously angle is 0, because parallel to the magnetic field it will happen. So theta will be 0 now, so force will be 0. And when it is entering from down towards, then magnetic field and velocity will be at a perpendicular angle, means theta 90 degree. Put that and you can get these results. So this one is the easiest example. You can solve this. Okay. So yes, moving ahead towards motion of a charged particle in a magnetic field, you have seen this picture now. You know that centripetal force equals to magnetic force. We have done this once. So the radius of circle we will get will be R equals to mv over qb. Now, if m means mass of that charge, q amplitude of that charge, and b magnetic field are held constant. If these three things are constant and we are increasing the speed, so the radius will also increase. Means if look here, if this proton is moving with the speed 10 to the power 6 meter per second, okay, so the radius is this r, okay, small one. But if we are increasing the speed, we are just doubled it, and now it is moving with 2 into 10 to the power 6 meter per second, then the radius will also be 2r. You can see here. So the higher speed, the larger radius. You have to remember this thing in your mind always. Again, one example. You guys please try to solve this. A Bainbridge mass spectrometer is used to measure the mass of zinc ion. So basically we have to measure the mass of zinc ions. The ions enter a magnetic field of strength B equals to 1.8 Tesla with the speed of 4.2 into 10 to the power 4 meter per second, and they move in a circular path of radius r equals to 1.7 centimeter. So what is the mass of zinc ions? So it is quite easy now because we know all the formulas. We know the formula of force, we know the relation between radius and mass of for that charge. Obviously we know that it is a zinc ion positive Zn plus, and when it will enter in a magnetic field it starts circulating to the
Next,
magnetic field direction. Yes.
we can use R is equal to mv over qb and we
Yes,
find out.
you will use this. So this is your answer. M equals to QB R over B. You can put the values which are given in this question. Yes. Okay, moving ahead. Now we'll study about cyclotron. The basic concept of cyclotron we have studied. Okay, like the charges will move in the uh, presence of magnetic field. Okay, and the cyclotron is a type of accelerator. We use cyclotron to accelerate charged particles. Why we want to accelerate the charged particles? To produce radioactive isotopes. Okay, now why we want to produce radioactive isotopes? You know these things that some isotopes can be used in our medical, some isotopes can be used to produce electricity, and so on. So the cyclotron is the most important device in today's scenario. So how it looks like? It looks like this. This is your cyclotron. I hope you must have seen this picture before also, and you have studied about it in your previous classes also, because cyclotron is always an important topic in the physics. So what is happening in this cyclotron, and how the yes, and how the charged particles are being accelerated when we are using this cyclotron. So just we will push a charged particle up to the center, okay, and we apply magnetic field perpendicular to that charged particle, or the perpendicular to this symmetry. What is this symmetry? There used to be two D's. This is a shape of D, na? D type of shapes are there, two D's. So we call it D's. Those D's having conducting materials. Those are made of conducting materials. And now we construct the charge to move in a circular path. Yes, in the presence of magnetic field, it will obviously move in a circular path. So we know that if we increase the velocity, the radius of the path also increases. So slowly we increase the velocity. First, initially it was here, and we increase the velocity. So this second circle, it starts moving. Again increase the velocity, then a bigger circle it will make. Then again moving, increasing the velocity, a more bigger circle it will move. But at last, when the end of 1D is coming, we just collect our charge particle from here. Now suppose initially if the velocity of this charge particle was like for example we can say 2 meter per second, if it was that, then what we will get in our output using this cyclotron, na, you can't imagine. There will be the velocity 1 lakh times or more than that, also 1 lakh times more. Like we can get up to 2 lakh meter per second for that 2 meter per second of that moving charge. And if uh, having this huge amount of velocity, the charge will stuck any metal or any substance, na, then some isotopes will we can create. Okay, so the cyclotron, in the cyclotron this process is going on. Okay, so I will tell you some formula to solve the questions related to the cyclotron. You know this thing, I have explained it. Now the circumference of the circle, we can use C equals to 2 pi r, and I am using r as a radius of one circle. Okay, time to traverse one semicircle means pi r over v. We know that r equals to this one, just put the value, and we are getting the time this. So this is the time taken to complete half circle, means to move in a 1D. And if we want the time taken to complete one full revolution or one circle, then we just multiply this two, then the formula will be T equals to 2 pi m over qb. Okay, and for energy, if we want to find the kinetic energy of that charged particle which we want to accelerate now, so we know the formula for energy is E equals to half mv square. So half m, just put the value of v, okay, and again just put the value of r, and you can get, so E equals to q square v square r over 2m. One question has already come into your net exam from this formula. The question was quite easy. So the questions from cyclotron are coming, and those are quite easy to solve. One more example, which type of questions are coming? So this is the example. A cyclotron is used to accelerate deuterons, that q equals to 1.6, you know this thing, of mass, this one. The radius of the cyclotron is 30 centimeter, and magnetic field applied to it has strength 1.6 Tesla. So find the period of the particles in their circular path and the energy of the particles leaving the cyclotron. So both the things you can calculate because you know the formulas. So the period of the particles in their circular path will be this T equals to 2 pi m or qb. All these values you know given in the question, and the energy there. Kinetic energy, the formula is K equals to q square v square r square over 2m, and all the things you know. And the energy we will get will be in joule. And if we wish to calculate that energy in electron volt, then you know this thing. We have to divide it with 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19. The value of amplitude of 1 point charge, that is 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19 coulomb. Yeah. Now, from here, the topic is changing. Now we'll study about some magnetic phenomena. I will teach you comparing our electrical formulas and magnetic formulas, so that you will not get confused while solving the questions. If I will talk about electric polarization, then I will use capital P. If we are talking about magnetic polarization, then the sign is capital M. The definition is the same. Electric polarization is electric dipole moment per unit volume, and magnetic polarization is magnetic dipole moment per unit volume. Okay, electric polarization have the unit coulomb per meter square. Magnetic dipole moment, magnetic polarization have the unit ampere per meter. Okay, so the magnetic polarization is related to the magnetic dipole moment, that is small m. And if you want to know the value of magnitude of that polarization, then capital M will be equal to Nm. What is N here? N is the number density of magnetic moments. Okay, some formulas you will see here. Electric polarization PR and magnetic polarization MR, and the comparison between the both. So PR n cap is equal to integral 0 to tau J n cap dt. What is this J here? J is equal to del PR over del T. This is basically the current density, we can say, whether electric polarization is taking place. And this small p is your dipole moment, and you can write it as this also, integral r rho r dr, where rho r is the charge density, you know. And magnetic polarization, just the same thing. Mr will be equal to half r cross jr. Jmr equals to del cross mr, and m equals to half integral r cross jr dr. This small m is magnetic dipole moment. Okay, so by comparison, the things got easier. Now, the formula for electric polarization will be, if capital P we want to calculate and we know the dipole moment, then capital P will be equal to summation over Pi over P, summation of Pi over V. What is this V? This V is the volume. And magnetic polarization, if we want to calculate, the same type of formula we will use. So look at this diagram. There is a cube having some volume V and having sides delta x, delta y, and delta z. If we apply some current, then the magnetization will take place. So the magnetization is a current per unit length. What is the magnetization? The term I am using now, I am telling all the definitions too. So magnetization is a current per unit length. For a uniform magnetization, all current localized on surface of magnetized body. That means on the surface, all the currents will be there. No inside, no currents inside. So what will be this M? This M will be I into delta Y delta Z. That is your conventional value of your magnetic moment, and per unit volume now. So delta X, delta Y, delta Z, and you can get the results. Yeah. So yes, I have told you that magnetization is happening on the surface only because the induced current is on the surface. So now, what is surface magnetization current density and which formulas it will introduce? So for surface magnetization current density, the symbol we use is alpha M. Okay. So consider a cylinder of radius R. This is your cylinder, and uniform magnetization M is taking place over the surface of this cylinder. Okay. So basically M is parallel to the axis of your cylinder. Since M arises from individual M means one dipole moment. There are many charges, many dipole moment in that cylinder. So we are talking about one dipole moment. Since M arises from individual M, then current loops cancel in volume, leaving net surface current. Small dipole moments will generate. Many small dipole moments will generate, accumulate, and make one summationed dipole moment like this, one dipole moment having the same direction, this direction, the direction of this arrow. So that means in the volume there is nothing. That means no current inside the volume. This is the basic phenomena. Now, if we talk about solenoid, we have studied about solenoid, that what is the solenoid, what is the magnetic field inside the solenoid, magnetic field outside the solenoid. So we know that for vacuum solenoid, there is a magnetic field V equals to mu naught Ni. From Ampere's law, we have derived this thing. So if we wish to calculate the polarization, magnetic polarization for this solenoid, so we have induced some current density, and then the current will be the enclosed total current inside this solenoid. So the magnetic field now will possess two types of current. First one is conduction current, we know this I, and second one is magnetization current, by which current the magnetization is happening. So now this I will be mu naught and Li into alpha M L. What is this L? L is the length of your solenoid, conventional length of your solenoid. So basically, V will become mu naught Ni plus alpha M. Okay. So, and we can write it as this one also. Yeah. So if mu r is greater than 1, then alpha m and I are in same direction. So the material is paramagnetic. Important results. One question from these results can come into the exam, because from the solenoid polarization, no questions has come yet. So please remember all these things. And if mu r is less than 1, then alpha m and I are in opposite direction. That means the material is dimagnetic. Yeah. So these are some important results. Now, till now, I am talking about uniform magnetic field, uniform magnetic field. field. But what if there is non-uniform magnetization? Magnetization is changing with different places. Then what will happen? Then we will just divide that magnetization accordingly the direction. If the magnetization is in x direction, mx we will write. Magnetization in y direction, my we will write. Magnetization in z direction, mz we will write. So you can see in this picture, this is your x-axis, this is your z-axis, and the magnetization in third direction, like in y-axis. So the magnetization we can write as my. Okay. Yes. If we have some neighboring elements, and for example, we are using 3 boxes. There are 3 identical element boxes. Their centers are separated by some distance dx. At the center box, I am applying some circulating current. Like I am applying that current in y direction. So the magnetization is taking place. And what will be that magnetization? My dy. My dy. Okay. So what will happen on this left side box and what will happen on this right side box? So just listen me carefully. My dy is generating over these surfaces of this blue box, over these surfaces of this blue box. So for the left one, if we are going towards this left, then we are covering this dx distance too, because this is the separation of those elementary boxes now. So we will consider this dx2. Okay, and what we will get this total magnetization for this left box, and for the right one I will add them, just this different. Okay, we are not going to do the derivations for them. Just to remember these formulas, I have put them here. Yes. Now upward and circulating current, the same it is happening if we wish to calculate the for the upwards current and for the circulating currents. So the magnetic current is the difference in neighboring circulating currents, where the half takes care of fact that each box is used twice. So yes, we can write the formula as this one. So, these are not some most important formulas. You can skip this slide because yes, it was related. That is why I am putting it here. Now, for non-uniform magnetization, I have told you that if magnetization is taking place in y direction, then we will say my is the magnetization. If in x direction, then mx is the magnetization. But what about the current density? It will also possess, will it also possess the directions? No, it will not possess the directions. The current density will follow the same direction in which initially we were applying the magnetic current. We were applying the current or circulating current. Yeah. So this JMZ will be for my, this JMZ will be for minus mx, and this JMZ will be for if we wish to apply them both, and so on. So the total magnetization current is always parallel to this Z. You can see here. MZ I am writing now. So it is always parallel to this Z axis. So coming here, the question is becoming easier. So the Jm we can write it as del cross M. If we wish to calculate Jm, just we have to do curl for that magnetization. Moving ahead, what is magnetic field intensity? Yes, ma'am. Yeah, what is magnetic field intensity? So recall Ampere's law. You know this, close integral B dot dl equals to mu naught I, or we also know that del cross B equals to mu naught J. These two things you have already studied. Now There are two types of current, you know. Okay, for free charges and for bound charges. We have studied these two, both free charges and bound charges and current densities and the boundary value conditions also. So just del cross B equals to mu naught J, and mu naught J will be mu naught JF plus JM. JF is okay, but what is this value of JM? This is del cross M. We know this thing also. So this del cross B, how can I write this? This mu naught will be inside this and M will be this side. So del cross B upon mu naught minus M, it will happen. So this B upon mu naught minus M, what is this? This is your H, capital H. Magnetization intensity. Okay, so where H is this one and B is this one. For electric field, the displacement current is taking place now. For magnetic field, the magnetization intensity H is replacing this factor D, that displacement current. And using these things, from the next lecture, we will start our Maxwell equations now. From the next lecture, or from again next, then I will tell you the displacement current and this magnetization intensity, how they can vary and where we can use them. So if magnetization intensity in the term of this H, if we wish to apply Ampere's law in the terms of this H, then what we will do? We know that del cross H is equals to JF. Just put the surface integral both sides. So the surface integral we have to calculate using Curl's theorem into this H dot dl, and this will be IN for free charges. So the Ampere's law will be this one in the term of your magnetization intensity. Yes. Some more formulas. Magnetic susceptibility. All these formulas you guys will always remember, because the questions from these formulas are coming in your exams. Okay, the most important things only we are taking in these lectures, because there is not much time left now, so we can't waste your time. So the magnetic susceptibility chi b. What is this magnetic susceptibility chi b? If we wish to apply in magnetic field, then this M equal to chi b upon mu naught. And if we wish to calculate this in magnetic electric field, then the P was equal to epsilon naught chi E. Chi E was there, susceptibility in electric field. Chi B is here, susceptibility in magnetic field. Just we have to do some calculation, and this is the tables for quartz, aurum, and oxygen molecule at STP. The values of chi B and mu r. Mu r is the relative permeability. The relation between mu r and chi b is this one. You can calculate from the here also. And chi b is the magnetic susceptibility. If there is any diamagnetic substance, then you will always remember that magnetic susceptibility is always negative. Okay, and relative permeability is always less than 1. Only for diamagnetic materials. Okay. So this is the graph. I think in 11th or 12th, I don't know, you have studied about hysteresis loop. This is your hysteresis loop. Okay, this is a ferromagnet, any ferromagnet, and this hysteresis loop is showing us the variation of magnetic field with magnetization intensity. Okay, if chi is much less than unity, the two definitions are roughly equivalent, and we can get these types of results. 1 over 1 minus x is approximated to 1 over 1 minus chi is approximated to 1 plus chi. Now we'll do some questions related to CSIR net and related to all these formulas. See guys, there are many and many formulas in today's lectures. So please make your short notes so that you can read them at the time of your exam, before some time of your exam. Yes, question 1 is, a circular current carrying loop of radius A carries a steady current. A constant electric charge is kept at the center of the loop. The electric and magnetic fields E and B respectively at a distance d vertically above the center of the loop satisfy? And there are four options. So what is the question saying? The question is saying there is a circular current carrying loop which has the radius a, and it is carrying a current, let's suppose I, and there is a constant charge we will put at the center of that loop. Okay, we wish to apply some electric and magnetic fields also. So the electric field is E and magnetic field is B. So the relation between electric and magnetic field for this condition will be, and there are four options. So if anyone want to guess, you can guess. Otherwise, I will tell you the answer. Do you know the answer? I think no, because you are just starting the magnetostate. Na? This question is from NET December 2017. And the right answer is option C. Yes. Because, no, the right answer is option 4, this D1. This option C, by mistake I have written here. This is D. Why? Why? Because E cross B is 0. Why this E cross B is 0 here? Because we know when electric and magnetic fields are at the same place on the same charge or on the same loop, then they carry perpendicular directions only. Electric and magnetic fields never can be in the same direction. So E cross B will always 0. So the correct answer will be this one, D. Del dot E cross B equals to 0.
Ma'am,
One
one
thing,
number
yes,
option could be
yes,
one number option also will be right. The E perpendicular B.
yes, but he is asking above the center of the loop. Like I am making a loop here. This is the center, and at the distance D, at some distance D. So on this loop, electric field is perpendicular to the magnetic field, but not on this point. Yeah, that is why I cannot tick one as your right answer. Can you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So the option 4 will be right one. Okay. The next question: a loop of radius A carrying a current I is placed in a uniform magnetic field B. If the normal to the loop is denoted by n vector, n cap, the force F and torque T on the loop are. So there is a current carrying loop having radius A. We applied some uniform magnetic field B. Okay, and we wish to calculate the force and torque on that loop. So how can we calculate that? For a loop, the force is equals to 0 because loop cannot move in a circular direction, na? So there will be no force. Okay, and it is not said anywhere in this exam that the loop has free charges. Nowhere it is given. That is why we will not consider the charge. So for uniform field, force will be 0. That is why the torque will be applied. And the formula for torque is M cross B. You know that. And the rest things you know. So you can calculate. Question number 3. A uniform magnetic field in positive Z direction passes through a circular wire loop of radius 1 centimeter and resistance 1 ohm lying in XY plane. The field strength is reduced from 10 Tesla to 9 Tesla in 1 second. The charge transferred across any point in the wire is approximately. This question was from June 15 and it is an important question. Please practice these types of questions. So this will be your answer. The direct formula is there. E equals to minus d phi over dt. I'm sure that you are studying this formula in your electronics also. There they will use this formula too. But for this question, this is the solution. And next, a proton moves with a speed of 300 meter per second in a circular orbit in the XY plane in a magnetic field 1 Tesla along positive Z direction. This is the same question, the same example were doing in our lecture. When an electric field of 1 voltmeter is applied along the positive Y direction, the center of circular orbit, we have to tell that the proton is moving in an orbit. We know that. Okay, if we will apply some magnetic field of 1 Tesla, like it is given in the question that 1 Tesla of magnetic field we are applying, and the proton soon started to move in a circular path. Okay, the velocity of that proton is 300 meter per second. But what about the center? Now, if I am applying the electric field now, then the center will be displaced. There was initially only magnetic field. Okay, then the center was stationary. But when I am applying electric field of 1 voltmeter now, then the center will displace surely. So the option A is discarded from here. It cannot be the right one. And this is the important question. This is from NAT June 15. So for these types of questions where E and B both are present, if we are applying magnetic field first or we are applying electric field first, we are getting the same results. So what will you do? We know that magnetic field and electric field can't be in the same direction. Yes. So, and we also know that the cross products, we will do electric field and magnetic field with both of them. So it is given that magnetic field is along positive Z direction and the electric field is along positive Y direction. So just we have to do cross product of those directions. So this is the formula. Just remember this formula, this relation. So E over B X cap, what is E1, what is B1? So you are getting speed 1 meter per second and you are getting the direction 2, that is in X direction. So the correct answer will be moves at 1 meter per second along the, D, along the positive X direction. Moves at 1 meter per second along the positive X direction. Yes. So this is all for today. If there is any query, you can ask. No queries?
No, ma'am.
Okay, guys.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
Please take the previous slide.
Yes. हाँ, ये वाला question?
Yes. Is this
Yes.
any medium or free space? If this question in a free medium or a free space or any medium?
Okay, look, if proton is moving now, then we are not talking about any specific medium. Okay, if electron and we will talk about electron and protons are moving, then there is no specific medium they will give. If
Okay,
they
in free
give
space,
some,
we can use the EC equal EVB also we can use, right? This
yes,
this
we can
equation.
use that. We can use that too. Anything else?
No, ma'am.
Any more question? Questions are always invited from my side. Start thinking more and more, and please do ask the questions, do reply my questions in the class so that you can interact with me and you can get the most you can. Exams are near, you know, so please do hard work. And yeah, all for today.